I never imagined my marriage would come down to a sentence so sharp it cut through me like glass. My wife, Emily, and I had been together for 12 years. We'd survived student debt, job changes, moving across 3 different states, and the chaos of raising 2 kids. I thought we were partners, 2 people pushing through life storms hand in hand. But one evening, while I sat at the kitchen table paying bills, Emily dropped a line that shattered everything. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed, her face cold and distant. "We have separate lives," she said flatly, as if it were a fact carved in stone. At first I laughed, thinking she was joking. Separate lives? We lived in the same house, shared the same bed, split groceries, raised children. How could she possibly see it that way? But her expression didn't change. Her eyes carried no warmth, only a detached certainty that chilled me to my core. Separate lives? I repeated slowly, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. She shrugged. "You do your thing, I do mine. It's easier this way." Easier. That word echoed in my head. Easier for who? For her, it meant no responsibility to communicate, no intimacy, no shared goals, just 2 roommates under one roof. For me, it meant loneliness disguised as marriage, a hollow partnership with nothing left inside. I felt anger bubbling beneath the hurt, but I forced myself to stay calm. If she wanted separate lives, I could give her exactly what she was asking for. I closed my laptop, pushed the stack of bills aside, and looked her dead in the eye. "All right," I said evenly. "If we have separate lives, then we'll have separate wallets too." For the first time in weeks, I saw her flinch. Emily had grown accustomed to me handling everything: mortgage payments, car insurance, utilities, the never-ending list of expenses that kept our household running. I had never once asked her to cover more than the occasional grocery run or a new outfit for the kids. She liked her paycheck for herself, spending it on boutique clothes, expensive skincare, and girls' nights that stretched into the early hours of the morning. I never complained until now. Her lips parted as if to argue, but I cut her off before she could form the words. "No more joint account. No more me covering everything while you float above it all. If we're separate, Emily, then we're truly separate." She tried to laugh it off. "James, don't be ridiculous." But I wasn't laughing. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling while she slept beside me, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. I thought back to when we first met, how she used to send me encouraging texts before big meetings, how we stayed up late planning our future, how we promised to always pull in the same direction. Somewhere along the way, that promise had died, replaced with detachment and entitlement. The next morning, I went to the bank. By noon, our joint account was gone, replaced with 2 separate ones. My paycheck now went into mine alone. I set up new auto payments for the mortgage and utilities that covered my share. The rest? Her responsibility. When Emily discovered the changes later that week, the fury in her voice was almost satisfying. "Are you out of your mind?" she snapped, waving the new bank statements in front of me. "No," I replied calmly. "I'm just living the way you want, separate lives." Her anger wasn't just about money. It was about control. For years, she had relied on me to shoulder the weight while she indulged in freedom without consequence. By cutting the financial cord, I'd pulled away the safety net she took for granted. The first cracks showed quickly. She canceled a spa appointment because her card was declined. She skipped dinner with friends because her account was running low. I didn't gloat, didn't rub it in her face. I simply let her live the independence she had demanded. For a while, she tried to act unfazed, pretending this was exactly what she wanted. But I could see the cracks widening, her mask slipping. The distance between us wasn't just financial anymore. It was emotional, spiritual, and unfixable. Still, a part of me hoped she'd see the truth in what I was doing. That maybe, just maybe, the shock of separation would wake her up to what she was destroying. But I was wrong. Weeks turned into months, and our separate lives became more visible than ever. Emily's frustration grew with every bill that landed on her side of the table. At first, she thought I would cave, that I'd eventually step in and rescue her the way I always had. But I didn't. One evening, she stormed into the living room, her voice sharp and trembling. James, the credit card company called me 3 times today. They said I'm behind on payments. You can't seriously expect me to handle all of this on my own. I didn't look up from the book in my hands. That's exactly what you asked for, Emily. Separate lives. Separate responsibilities. Her eyes narrowed, filled with a mix of disbelief and rage. You're punishing me. No, I said softly. I'm giving you what you wanted. Punishment would be me leaving you with everything. But I've still covered my half. I've just stopped covering yours. She didn't respond. For the first time, I saw genuine fear flicker across her face. Independence, it turned out, was a lot less glamorous when it came with overdue bills and a dwindling account balance. Meanwhile, I noticed subtle shifts in the house. The closet, once overflowing with new dresses, now stayed static. Packages from luxury brands no longer piled at the door. Her late nights out with friends became fewer and farther between. She was learning, slowly, painfully, that freedom carried weight when someone else wasn't funding it. But what hurt more than any financial strain was the silence. Our conversations were reduced to short, clipped exchanges about the children's schedules or household chores. The laughter that once filled our kitchen was gone. The warmth between us had evaporated, replaced by a cold war of stares and slammed doors. Then came the breaking point. One Saturday morning, while I was making pancakes for the kids, Emily sat across from me at the table, her hair tied back, her eyes puffy from another restless night. She watched me flip pancakes onto plates, her expression unreadable. Finally, she whispered, I didn't think you'd actually go through with it. I paused, spatula in hand. Go through with what? Pulling away, separating everything, treating me like a stranger. I set the spatula down and looked at her. You were the one who said we had separate lives. I only listened. I gave you exactly what you asked for. Her voice cracked. I didn't mean it like this. Then how did you mean it, Emily? I asked, leaning forward. Because for months you've treated me like a roommate at best, a nuisance at worst. You shut me out, ignored me, dismissed every effort I made to reconnect. You told me to my face that intimacy, love, partnership, none of it mattered anymore. You wanted independence. So I gave you independence. Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't feel triumph. There was no satisfaction in watching the woman I once adored crumble under the weight of her own choices. There was only exhaustion. I don't know if I can fix this, I admitted quietly, because it feels like I've been alone in this marriage for years. For the first time, Emily didn't argue. She didn't deflect, didn't lash out. She just sat there in silence, her shoulders trembling, as if she finally realized the depth of what she had lost. Later that night, after the kids were asleep, I packed a small bag. Not because I wanted to run, but because I needed space to breathe, to think about whether there was anything left worth saving. I left her a note on the counter. Separate lives mean separate paths. I need to decide if mine still includes you. When I walked out of the door, I expected anger, maybe a barrage of texts or calls. But none came. The silence that followed was louder than any fight we had ever had. Days later, she finally reached out. Her message was short, almost timid. I didn't realize what I was saying until you showed me what it meant. I don't want separate lives anymore. I want us, if that still matters to you. I stared at the words on my phone for a long time. Maybe she meant them. Maybe it was just desperation. Either way, one truth remained unshakable. I had changed. I could no longer be the man who carried everything while being treated like nothing. Marriage, I realized, is built on two people rowing in the same direction. The moment one drops the oar, the boat spins in circles until both are lost. Emily had dropped hers long ago. The only question now was whether I had the strength or the desire to pick it back up with her. As I closed my phone and set it aside, I knew one thing for certain. Separate lives would never work, but neither would one-sided ones. If she wanted us to continue, it would take more than words. It would take effort, honesty, and the kind of love we had promised each other all those years ago. And for the first time in a long time, I was no longer afraid of walking away if she couldn't give it.